Hi, I caught my mom cheating on my dad.
So she walked in on her mom cheating.
Mom's getting dicked down. I'm really wondering who it is.
Yes, Money Podcast. I was calling because I wanted to ask if you're having gay tendencies.
Listen, like if you're gay, bro.
Bro, you
like,
gay,
just
it's
suck
fine.
some dicks.
Yeah. You don't have to act on all desires, though.
My question is about Erin and Casey's relationship.
Yeah, everybody always speculates about this.
I wonder what she thinks.
Everybody thinks we're fucking. We are definitely, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the How Many Podcast. I am Casey Rodemore, joined today with my co-host, Erin Redwing, and we are here to bring you a very special episode of the podcast. Mm-hmm. We set up a phone number for everybody to dial, 717-GM69.
No, 69-GM-HMP.
717-69-GM-HMP. Thank you to the good folks at Twilio for providing a great telephony service. Mm-hmm. And we encouraged everybody to dial in with your relationship questions, all your relationship advice, which you have done in spades. And we now have a large number of sometimes quite salacious and quite personal queries to read.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of nervous for some of the answers because I feel like we're going to really expose ourselves. Because some of them, it's like you have to answer.
We're exposing the degens.
Well, that too, but they get the benefit of being anonymous, right? Like, it's my face on this. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Like, I feel like some of them, it's like I'm really going to have to open up about my own personal experience. By the way, like, it's kind of, well, okay, this is Loveline. If you've never seen Loveline, it was like a show in the early 2000s. Right?
No, it's been
90s?
going for a while. I listened. It was
a radio show originally.
I listened to the radio show on Live 105 in the 90s in the
Was
Bay
it
Area.
Dr. Drew?
Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla.
Dr. Drew is one of my like icons, role models, inspirations. I love Dr. Drew.
I think he's kind of like a stiff, you know?
No, he's not. He's really based. Like, he's randomly super based and like down to earth and chill.
Okay.
I only know him.
I withdraw judgment.
He goes on like, I mean, he goes on anything. I think that's what's like funny about him is like, if you invite him on your podcast, like he will come on. He should come on How Many Podcasts.
We should have had him on for this.
We should have him on How Many
episode.
Podcasts. But he's really like, he can very easily fit. Like you can put him on like a CNN style talking head thing. Mm-hmm. You can put him on like a weird like Trisha Paytas style like podcast, and like he will fit any environment. And he's really chill. He's very understanding.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I love Dr. Drew. So this is, Dr. Drew is the original Loveline, but basically, would you call in live for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you'd call in live and then him and like his co-host would give you advice. So this, we're not doing live call-ins because I don't think we could manage that. We'd have to have someone like fielding calls and whatever.
I do think Adam Carolla is the canonical Loveline co-host.
Yeah.
Which one of us is Dr. Drew and which one of us is Adam Carolla?
I think I might be Adam. No.
Yeah, I think you might be Dr. Drew.
I think I'm Dr. Drew.
I mean, if I'm not Dr. Drew.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Drew.
Yeah.
That's an honor, honestly. Yeah, Dr. Drew would love to have him on the pod and meet him. Huge role model. So we're doing Loveline, even though Casey and I are not probably actually good people to give relationship advice.
No, I'm fucking terrible. I've spent not a lot of time in relationships.
Casey's terminally single and I'm like a trad wife, child bride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
her boyfriend groomed her from the tender age of 19?
18.
Ooh, okay.
I know.
Oof.
Yeah, I've never dated as an adult. And Casey is maybe not the best success story.
Yeah, no. Work in progress.
But we're still going to give you guys advice no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. We have different perspectives. Like, I'm curious to see where we disagree or where we agree. And we got good questions. Also, interestingly, most people who called in were female or at least sounded female.
That's right.
Which, again, maybe not a surprise, but it's like, I feel like the women in this space are probably not the ones who actually need the relationship advice. But maybe they are.
I mean, the women in the space are the ones in the relationships.
Yeah.
The women in the space need
relationships to have advice about.
Yeah, the men in the space need advice about getting into relationships.
Well, but they could have asked, but they didn't really. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not that we would have had good advice for it. Right, so maybe it's actually better.
Yep.
But yeah, we got a lot of good questions. So thank you for calling in.
Thank you very much.
Should we just get into it?
Yeah.
Is there any other housekeeping?
No, I don't think so. Everything's just rolling along. Bitcoin Vegas continues to be on the horizon.
Yeah, Vegas
eventually.
is kind of our next thing.
Inscribing Vegas along with the Bitcoin conference.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But other than that,
Yep.
All we have is Loveline. And this will be posted after Valentine's Day because Valentine's Day is tomorrow.
Yep, that's right. All right.
Let's get into it.
Number one. I guess we'll just
play it. Yeah, just play it.
Hi, I caught my mom cheating on my dad, like walked in on it. And as disturbing as it was, I don't know. Should I tell my dad what I know?
Oof.
Short and sweet.
Yeah,
Short and sweet.
really getting into it. Really no pulling any punches. We're like getting into the action here.
So she walked in on her mom cheating. So it's not like there's no gray area here. Like it's happening.
Yeah.
Should she tell her dad?
I mean, is there any possibility that her dad knows? That there's some sort of like arrangement going on?
That's a good question.
Like maybe they have a dead bedroom, dad's just not interested in sex. Mom's getting dicked down. I'm really wondering who it is. I mean, like she walked in on them, which means that it was at their house.
Yeah, it was happening.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not necessarily. I don't know. You could be in public and you, walk in on, I feel like implies like you're walking into a room.
Yeah,
What public situation would that be?
She saw the man's ass, I'm thinking.
Right.
Descending,
I think you have to talk to your mom first, right? Like you have to be like, hey, I mean, well, she saw you, like presumably you've already talked to her, I guess. Like you have to get like, okay, mom, what's going on? Like, are you cheating? Is it like, do you and dad have some kind of arrangement? Like, I think you have to give your mom the opportunity to come clean herself. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But I think you have to tell if your mom is like, no, please don't tell. I kind of think you have to tell him. You think so? Like, do you agree? Because that just like fucks up your relationship with your dad if you're like holding the secret from him.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's fucked up not to tell him. You got to tell him. I'm thinking like, are there mitigating features? Like maybe there's little kids in the relationship and like there's kids younger than you that it's like important that they stay together. But like, no, I think it's super fucked up not to tell your dad if you know that your mom is cheating on him. But yeah, you should talk to her first and see what her explanation is, What if she says, oh, it's totally fine, we have an agreement, like do you trust that and just like let it go and never bring it up to your dad? No, then you bring it up with him and you say it's crazy, I walked in on mom with Frank from down the street or whatever. Frank from down the street, Frank and Beans from down the street. Mm-hmm. And with Ben and Jerry. Yeah. I mean, like I talked to her later and she said that like you guys have this arrangement. It's just crazy. And I just could not talk to you about it. And then you give your dad an opportunity to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? We have no fucking arrangement. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I feel like if you don't tell your dad, then what your mom is doing is like she's wedging in between you and your dad. And she's asking for you to be closer to her than you are to him. Yeah. And have like loyalty to her over him. And I don't think you should put your kid in that position, Yep. But that sucks. I'm sorry that happened. That's crazy. Yep. That's some wild shit. I'm really glad. I can't imagine having to deal with that. Oh my God. It's like a nightmare scenario. I mean, my parents are still together. They're happily married as far as I know. And like, I had like so many like concerns, like what if that happened to me, like as a kid? Cause I think the little kids aspect is a correct thing to think about. Cause it's like, now if that happened, it's like, whatever, they're adults, I'm an adult. It's not a big deal. But like, if it was a situation where you were breaking up your family home potentially, like that's the fallout. Yep. Yep. So I don't know. It's complicated, but I kind of feel like you have to talk to both of them. Yep. Woof. Starting out strong. Yep. Well, let's get into a light one next. Okay. Yeah. Next one. Some comedy relief.
Okay. So I love heroin, but it's causing me conflicts with my life. What's the best thing to do?
Also short and sweet. Yep. When I first heard this, I thought he said wife, because this isn't actually a love and relationship question. Well, I assume maybe the problems that he's happening with his life also involve problems with relationships as it happens when you're a heroin addict. Yeah. Well, he didn't say he was addicted to heroin, but I mean, he says he likes heroin a lot. It's causing problems and he's wondering what he should do about it. That's true. Actually, that like in terms of that's almost like the definition of. Yeah. 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 If you find yourself that it's like causing issues, but you can't get yourself to stop. That is the definition of an addict.
I've always been really curious about heroin. I don't know if I would ever try it, but like the thing that I think is really interesting is I have a really easy relationship with drugs. They're drugs that I like, and I don't do them very often. I do them really rarely. Like I love like getting blasted out of my mind on cocaine. Like I don't do cocaine regularly. Months and months and months and months go by that I don't do any cocaine. I like benzos. I love benzos. Nothing sounds more fun than
See, this is why I'm like, we're going to expose ourselves on this
waking
podcast.
up in the morning, blasting some sort of like research chemical that I got off the dark web, and just doing nothing all day, just like lazing around in like a haze, watching like YouTube videos.
Sounds like you would
great.
like heroin then.
But I would, yeah. But I don't do that. But like, I know that they're addictive. Like if I do them in moderation, I can do them every once in a while. If I did them not
You're
in
just
moderation,
bragging to this guy. This guy has a problem. And
no.
But
I'm like, everybody says heroin is different. Everybody says, like, somebody said that he had a friend who, like, him and his friends were like, okay, we're going to do heroin. And they did it like once or twice. And then they just like looked at each other and they're like, we're addicted to heroin now. Like we're heroin addicts.
Yeah.
And we're all of a sudden like our life is upended. We're going to do whatever it takes to get, we're junkie lifestyle, like starting now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that really possible? Like it's so crazy to me from my experience, even of drugs that I really like and even drugs that are addictive. The only thing I've really been addicted to and like had to think seriously about, oh, I'm doing this and in a way that's not great, I need to stop, is nicotine. When I was 15, I started smoking after I saw David Lynch's Lost Highway for the first time. So it's pretty poignant that he died because of smoking. I smoked for 6 years, probably at least half of that a pack a day. And I quit when I was 21. Never looked back. Quitting sucked, but it was, you get over it. It's okay. And then recently quitting snooze, right? Because I was like, okay, this is just like, it's not worth it. It's stupid. But yeah, like, I mean, is heroin different? Like, have you ever done an opioid?
Don't you get opioids prescribed like for pain? Like, it's the same class, but it's obviously not the same thing, right?
Yeah, same class. I guess codeine is an opioid.
Like
Oxycontin is an opioid.
I've definitely done I definitely took an Oxycontin whenever I got my wisdom teeth removed when I was like 17 or something.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it being like a particularly like I don't associate any joy with that experience. Yeah. So I feel like it has to be just a totally different level.
Yeah. I had a kidney stone. Kidney stones fucking suck. Like kidney stones are so fucking bad. It's unreal. Like it's like comical how bad a kidney stone is. But I went to the UCSF emergency room and they just immediately gave me morphine. So like that is an ejectable opioid that like heroin is derived from. And like it was good, but like, I
feel like with opioids, the thing is more like if you're in pain for some reason, like you get addicted to opioids because like you're having the pain relieved. So why wouldn't you want that experience? It seems like heroin is not about pain relief. It's more about like a spiritual pain relief, Yeah. Like it makes you so happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. And I also have other friends that had heroin addiction.
I mean, you have to quit heroin. Like that's the only advice we can really give you, right?
Yeah. That's the only advice.
Like there's no manageable way.
The problem is that heroin is just not zero cost. Like there's always the chance of getting like a bad batch. There's always the chance of going to jail. You have to deal with some like shady characters. It's relatively easy to accidentally overdose. Even if you get the same stuff, if you take a break, your tolerance is low, you take the dose that you used to take, overdose, you have a good supplier and it's extra pure. And now these days with fentanyl going around, I mean, that's crazy. That's like very strong arguments not to do it. And like, it's like, I don't really know if it enriches your life that much, if it has so many costs.
Well, clearly, he said it's messing up his life.
Yeah.
So it does have costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if drugs had no cost, like I would do a lot more drugs, but that's just the trade-off, right? Like you steal happiness from the next day.
Yeah.
I feel like you should go to rehab and join NA. Like try the whole thing. You know what I mean? Because I think part of it it's interesting that like this person is willing to call in and like there's a level of like lucidity to like a lot of people can't say that they have a problem, right? Like that's a big thing. And I feel like that's the thing with like AA or NA or whatever is like the thing that people like about it is that you're with a bunch of people who like you start it with like, you know, I'm an alcoholic or I'm a drug addict, whatever kind of version for your drug of choice. But you kind of start with saying like, I have a problem that I'm dealing with. And so I feel like, I don't know. I mean, first of all, rehab sounds great to me, like a nice rehab, you know, like you just get to go away for like a month or whatever and just like not do anything. That
sounds awful. Like in some fucking shitty ass, like nearly a hospital room.
Go to somewhere in like, you know, like Arizona, you know, where you're just like staring at the mountains and doing yoga and whatever. Like go to a nice rehab for like a month and then like join NA afterward. I feel like just try it because like obviously you can't keep doing heroin.
Yeah, I mean, you know? I have like sort of opposite advice. I mean, similar advice, but I would say try quitting. Like if you can try quitting, try to do that. Some people do quit cold turkey and just not touch the stuff. We don't know what his struggle has been like. Yeah. If you can't do that or you've tried to do that and it doesn't work, then start ramping up the difficulty and go to NA and do those things.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like it's like a risk time commitment thing where it's like, you know, the reason why I'm like, oh, just fucking go to rehab and join NA is I'm like, if that's the final form that this has to take, because like you can't quit on your own, which many people, that's the case. Why not just cut to the chase and get to the end of this rather than like drag out like the risk and the destruction to your life? Do you know what I mean?
No, because I think it's like try to quit. And then if you are sober, if you stay sober, then it worked. Right. And if you don't, then immediately do the like rehab thing, you know, or like NA or whatever that is, you know.
So quit heroin. That's our
advice. Quit heroin is really the bottom line here. Yeah.
I'm so sorry you're going through that.
Yeah, dude, it sucks.
We kind of started out heavy.
Yeah. I really like this guy's voice. There's a quality to this guy's voice.
Okay, so I love heroin.
I love heroin.
Yeah, he has like a little
I think
accent.
It's a very like beautiful, like kind of like emotional. It's like a wet voice. You know?
It's a beautiful voice. Yeah. You've got a lot to live for.
You got a lot to live for, buddy.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, next one.
Number 3.
Yeah, so I've been married for about over 15 years now, and one thing I've noticed is that I'm not getting BJs anymore from the wife. I love my wife dearly. So by going to a massage party and getting a happy ending out of the massage place. No, it's a quick in and out. You know, there's no connection there. I don't love them. You know, I love my wife. Would that be considered cheating? No, getting the blowjob over here because I'm not getting it over here. Would you recommend that I talk about it with my wife beforehand about hey, babe, how about a BJ from time to time? So I just want to see if that is considered cheating, getting a blowjob at the massage party when there's no connection over here, but I still love my wife. Just want to see what you guys recommend. What should I do? Question is from a friend, actually. Not even from me. Unbox me.
All right. So question from a viewer's friend.
Yeah, right. Question for a friend.
Yep.
Is it okay to get like happy endings or BJs or whatever elsewhere?
I actually think
totally
there's two interesting questions.
Okay.
One is it cheating?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is like definitely.
Yeah, obviously.
It's definitely cheating. The question like, is it okay? Is like an interesting one. Mm-hmm. Cause well, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
How bad is it to do without it? Like, are you gonna like divorce your wife? You know, like if it's really like, okay, like everything's fine and chill, but you know, you get some sloppy toppy at, Madam Ming Ming's, every once in a while, that's not great, but okay, like you wrap it up, your wife's okay. Your wife's not exposed to like STDs, like, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. I do think it's very weird. I mean, I'm not really like a poly guy or like a real like poly advocate, but I do think that there are lots of things about like really long-term monogamy that are like really hard.
Yeah.
And I find the dead bedroom subreddit really interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy in there.
Yeah, which is people who are in usually long-term relationships where, you know, one partner has like low libido, the other partner has high libido, one partner is not interested in sex, the other partner really wants sex. And it's like, I think we have this idea that almost the default is like a really happy relationship with an active sex life that lasts till the end of time.
Yeah.
And that something other than that is like a failure. But I think actually the reality is that the default is a relationship that starts very passionately, and that at some point the passion kind of runs out. And if you're really lucky, everything kind of works out, and maybe you're not as passionate, but you like still make time for sex and everything. If you're like less lucky, but you work really hard at it and you have like really good communication, then you can also wind up in a good place where it doesn't just magically work out, but you like work hard on the relationship and make time for each other and like really figure out how each other tick and, you know, how to make that work. And then it's good. But then I think almost like the norm, what the average person is going to run into is like a relationship that has a lot of these problems where you're like not communicating really well. The initial passion that got you together is not there. The partners have like different desires. Like somebody lets themselves go. They get really fat. Like, you know, somebody just is not really high libido. And so they were like, oh, like I want a boyfriend. So I'm going to like put out because that's like expected.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I like have a boyfriend. And so like
it down.
You locked it down. And I'm like, well, I don't really like this, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. It's like, it's one of those things where I'm like, it's bad. I wouldn't personally do it. But then again, also like if a relationship isn't working for me, I have no problem like pulling the ejector level. I pull the ejector level. All they see is my seat with like the smoke outline, you know, and I'm 400 meters in the air,
right, in
my parachute.
Right.
What's your take?
I mean, yeah, it is cheating. I don't think it's the worst form of cheating.
Yep.
As you said, it's not, I basically agree with you. It's not ideal, but I kind of get it. I feel like the question is not like, oh, should I tell my wife this is happening or whatever? It's more like, should you request this from your wife? You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I think it's totally reasonable to be like, hey, this is what I want or expect out of our relationship. And you can even say, it's like, maybe just like watch the way you say it, but like you can say like, hey, if I'm not
really watch the way you say it, you gotta really
well, duh. But it's like, you know, I think it's fair to just be like, look, if I'm not getting this here, I still want it. And like, eventually that's going to lead to me getting it elsewhere.
Yeah.
And some people might just not want to know about that. You know what I mean? Like I don't, again, not ideal, but like that just could be the case for some relationships and probably is the case for many relationships.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like it's less that it's like, oh, should I tell my wife about this thing that I've been doing? And more like, I think you need to like talk to your wife about this as a problem and try to fix it. And I think like, you know, if she's willing to play ball with that, then like stop doing this. Right. And then like cross the later bridge if that's not working for whatever reason. We got kind of a lot of questions about long-term relationships. We put them all together. I think they're coming up in a little bit, but, you know, it's like, I think there is some obligation to keep that part of a relationship alive if it's important to even just one person, you know, like, yeah, if you're like, well, I'm not really into this, but it's really important to the other person. Like maybe you got to figure that out or you have to be okay with them getting it elsewhere. You know? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like of like the cheating spectrum, this is probably more on like the innocuous side.
Yeah. I feel like if it's with the professional,
right? It's a professional service.
It's a professional service. If you're wrapping it up and, you know, like that's probably pretty ideal. Like, and it's not somebody who you're going to maybe have a relationship with, or there's going to be an emotional connection with. There isn't even really the option of an emotional connection here.
Yeah.
It's like the best option.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, I think you got to talk to your wife. I think you got to really say like, hey, like, you know, this is a problem for me. Like, I'm not getting this here. Like, I'm, you know, like it sucks. Like, start there. And then like, depending on that conversation, maybe, I don't know, like,
I think if the conversation, if she's like, okay, I'm willing to try to change, you have to stop what you're doing.
Yep.
Right. Like
Yep.
that. Cause that's like, you have to be in it the way that she's in it, you
Yep.
know, and you have to like really give it the try.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I feel like, you know, see if that actually happens or not. And then kind of figure out like, is this something that I should just do and she doesn't want to know about, you know?
Yep.
And also I think part of it is, you know, people are morally ambiguous characters. Like there's no way to be the good person every single time. And I think you also have to accept some responsibility for like, if this is what you want out of life and that makes you not a good person in this like specific situation, like you have to accept that, I think.
Yeah.
You
right.
know?
Yep.
Like I wouldn't try to like psychologically like justify it in some weird way.
You're gonna do this bad thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you can like offset it with like a donation to the Shrimp Welfare Project,
or do
something.
nice things for your wife.
Yeah, right.
You know
right,
what I mean?
right,
Like
yeah.
be a better like husband in
Be a
other
better
ways.
husband in other ways.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so
Make
it's
it up
like,
to her.
yeah, I think you have to really take like a sober look in the mirror, you
Yeah.
know, like a searching moral inventory.
Right. Yep.
And kind of figure out like, is this okay? And how can I make this okay if this is the only path forward for staying in this relationship, which you both want,
Yep.
if that's what you want.
Yep.
Okay.
Moving on.
Hi, yeah. I'm calling in because it is almost Valentine's Day, and I think that my partner would really like for me to do something with her on Valentine's Day. I was thinking of inscribing our names as like a I love you forever with a 4-megger, but I don't know if she would be so into that. Do you have any advice for a lover boy like myself? Thank you.
That's beautiful.
I think it's a great idea.
Fees are low.
Fees are low. 10
Fees
no
are really
notes.
low
Inscribe
right
that
now.
shit. Make sure the art doesn't suck, bro. Like make sure the art's good because it's going to be there for a long time. Listen, they're only going to be, you know, however many, you know, 4-meggers there are as there are blocks.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody whose relationship is not in a memorialized by a 4-megger is not actually in a relationship.
gonna stand the test of
Doesn't
time.
actually love each other. Not going to stand the test of time. Fake and gay. Okay. Unless they are gay, they're in a gay relationship, in which case fake and straight. So yeah, I mean, do it. I think it's fucking
super
rad.
romantic.
Yeah,
I think it's really cute.
But that can't be the only thing that you
Yeah,
do.
you
for
have to also
Valentine's
take her
Day.
out to dinner or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah, yeah.
she likes to do.
Exactly.
I think it's cute. Obviously, I would think that's cute more than maybe someone who like doesn't care about that. I would say like maybe don't tell her how much you spent on it
Yeah.
because then she's gonna be like, well, why didn't you just get me something I actually want?
Yeah, well, but and then you've got to tell her like maybe 4-megger is not the way to put it to her.
Yeah.
Say, hey baby, for Valentine's Day, I got you a Bitcoin block.
She's gonna be like, okay, where can you send that to my Cash App?
Yeah, and then you send her the link to the
The ordinals.com link,
the
and she's like,
ordinals.com
okay,
link.
yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
I think this is good if
No,
you
no,
have
but
a
you could say-
nice Valentine's Day
you
otherwise.
could say I inscribed our love on like a permanent digital artifact that can never be changed.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
That's very romantic.
Much like our love. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people do shit
It
like
does have to look good.
It does have to look good. People do this shit all the time. They write their names on like fucking locks. They carve it into the branches of a tree. They graffiti that shit. This is a tradition.
Yeah, I
you
think it's
know?
beautiful.
This is traditional.
I think it's beautiful, but also
Yeah.
take her out to dinner and maybe don't tell her how much you spent.
Yeah, definitely. Good idea. Yep.
But we love that, lover boy.
Yep. All right. Next one.
Yeah, I got a question. You know, my wife and I have been together for 10 years. It's a long fucking 10 years. Yeah, Erin, I know that you're probably the best one to answer this. You know, how come my wife and I kind of get back into that early relationship feel? Any tips on that, date-wise, things like that? All right, thanks.
We had a couple that are like this. Should we play them all together or should we just answer this and then play them?
Let's answer this and maybe we can answer the next one's a little shorter.
Okay. So the question is like, you know, long-term relationship. How do you get back to that early relationship phase?
Yeah.
I'm going to sound like a real nihilist here. I don't think you can. I think it's over when it's over. I think it's like, and that doesn't mean you should leave. And that doesn't mean that like the relationship is bad. But like, you know, I feel like the reality is that initial spark, like is the novelty of the chase, right? Like it's like when you do something, when you have a crush, you know, and you meet someone, you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like I am so obsessed with them. Like they're so great. They're so hot. They're whatever. And then you like get to kiss them for the first time. And then like, you know, oh my God, should I ask her to be my girlfriend? Like you will not have those novel experiences later in a relationship. That doesn't mean you will have no novel relationships or no novel experiences of other kinds, but it's like, I don't think you can get back the newness in those specific experiences. I think, you know, you kind of have to transition to another phase of a relationship where different things are important. And for some people that just like might not be the thing, you know? And like, I don't know, but that doesn't, it's bad. It's nihilist. Like it's a nihilist fucking answer. Like, I think like some people are long-term relationship people and they like that like stability and that like partnership aspect. And some people, what they like about love is romance and like thrill and the chase and whatever. And like, yeah, I don't know. There might be like little gamified ways of kind of recreating those experiences. And that's going to be very individual depending on the person. Right. So maybe if that's really important to you, like just trying to think about like, well, what is it really that I miss? And like, are there ways that I can like, you know, theatrically like reenact them essentially in a relationship, you know, like role playing or whatever, you know what I mean? Like there's things you can do to like spark things up and kind of like fakely create that new dynamic. But I feel like, yeah, once a relationship isn't new, that's just the case, right? Like it just is what it is. I do think like something, you know, I've been in a long-term relationship and like we don't have kids, right? I do think while having kids is something that's like, I don't know, maybe I'm giving bad advice here because I haven't had this experience, but like, you know, having kids is a new phase of a relationship. It's hard on a relationship for sure. I don't think most people have kids and are like, wow, this is the best time of my relationship, but it does create a new dynamic that you navigate together, you know? And so like, I don't know, I think something I've noticed with long-term relationships where people like don't have kids or aren't having kids, or like they don't want to have kids is it's like, well, then the reason to stay together is that you like it, you know? Cause like kids bring you together for like a more
other reasons.
Yeah. For a common shared goal. You're building a family together. You're raising a child together, whatever. So I'm like, maybe have a baby.
Yeah. Interesting advice.
Yeah. What do you think?
I kind of agree. Like, I think it is important to understand that relationships go through this very exciting, like new phase. Like I know when I've had a crush on a person and I'm seeing them for the first, you know, few times, or it's sort of in the early phase of the relationship, like it's fucking crazy.
It's like a drug.
Like, you're insane. Like all I'm thinking about is this person.
Yeah.
Like if you know, she can't hang out, I'm like, oh, like this sucks.
Yeah.
Like I'm super excited when I see her, like all this stuff. So I think you do, it does happen that the relationship, you know, isn't in that phase anymore. And that's, you know, too bad, but you know, maybe it's okay. Otherwise we'd be fucking insane like our entire lives, you know? But I actually think probably there's just like a lot of normal relationship advice here that applies.
Yeah.
Like, I think that one really simple thing is that if you're in a long-term relationship, you should both make a serious effort to get in shape and stay in shape. That like, it's just really important. And you've got to take it as seriously as you would when you were courting and looking for a partner.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then also like if you're healthy and active, that also is just going to increase the stuff that you can do together. And it's such a dumb thing, but like, I feel like a lot of the people who are happy in their relationship, like they're happy because they like doing things together. Like, it's just like, you know, I see couples on some like Disney cruise together. And like, as long as the man doesn't have those like dead eyes and he's clearly being like dragged along for it, it's like, damn, they're really happy.
It's nice for them. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You know, awesome. You know, so like, I think finding like shared activities that you like, that could be like exercise, that could be movies. If you and another person really like each other's shows, that's like a blessed scenario. So finding movies to watch together. I do think it takes effort once it's past the beginning of that relationship phase. You have to like figure out things that you like to do together and like be creative about it, you know? I don't know. Do you think like scheduling, like being like, okay, we're going to have a date night like once a week or once every 2 weeks. Do you think that that's is that something you do?
Yeah. Well, it's not something I do, but like, I think it's like what's the thing of like the different styles of love, like quality time, gift giving, physical affection, whatever. Like, I think it's like, if your version of romance and love, like, okay, what are your love styles? Like, are they the same? Are they different? And then like making sure that both people are being satisfied by that.
Yep.
First of all, your advice was way better than mine. Your advice is really good. Like, I think like,
you're like, just jump off a fucking cliff, bro.
like, just accept it, bro.
For you. Yeah.
But like, you know, I think, like for date night, like I think that's someone who appreciates quality time.
Sure.
Right. Where it's like, you might live together and spend all your time together, but the time isn't like you're sitting across from each other at a dinner having a conversation.
Or that one is often for like the very specific circumstance where you're both just like so busy and you both like, you have kids and you've really like not done this, and it used to be spontaneous and you did a lot, and now you just have to make time for it. You just need to put it on the calendar.
Totally. Yeah.
You know?
I think that's a little bit what I was getting at with the, like, think about like, what is it that you actually miss about the early relationship phase? Like beyond just like the excitement aspect, like what are the things that maybe have fallen off in the relationship that could be brought back?
Yeah.
It's like, now I'm curious, like gift giving, quality time, physical touch,
words of affirmation.
And then
is it acts of service?
Acts of service, yeah.
How is gift giving and acts of service like different?
Acts of service is like you're doing something for me. Like
Okay.
you're helping me in some way.
Right.
You
Yep.
carry the groceries in.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
What's your love language? Do you know, like, of those?
Oh, fuck. Let me just look them up.
Yeah,
love
look them
language. I mean, first of all, I think this is bullshit. I think
it's
everybody's
helpful.
I think everybody's love language is everything.
No. Some people care, because I like, for me, the reason why, like, I don't really care about quality time. That's something that doesn't really bother me. Like, I could just like passively hang out with someone. That's fine.
Oh, that is
Like, I don't
that isn't
need, like,
counted in quality time.
No, quality time is like when, you're like dedicating like undivided attention. Exactly.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like
gifts is like, I feel like you'd know if it was gifts, right? Like that's like a very specific thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, feeling appreciated. I don't really know what that falls
Words of
under.
affirmation.
Words of affirmation, maybe. I mean, that sounds lame, but like, I enjoy like being. I have no problem. I like being the provider. I like taking care of things. I like.
Well, so then you're.
I like planning things. I like doing all that stuff. But like, it sucks when the other person doesn't appreciate it, or it just feels expected.
Yeah.
And if the other person is like really appreciative and like very genuinely like grateful, like I just want to do like everything for her.
See, but that's like then your love language, like to her, is acts of service, but what you want in return is words of affirmation. That's the way that it's categorized.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like there's some people that are better at like doing certain love languages, but they want to receive different love languages.
Yeah.
Like for me, I think I feel like words of affirmation is big for me. Acts of service is pretty big. I'm like, which ones do I give? Yeah, I feel like I like quality time and gifts are like not so important to me. Physical touch,
getting the clam blasted.
I think physical touch is like a big one where it's like, I feel like that's like the giving and getting, where it's like that has to be satisfied. But the acts of service and the words of affirmation are like nice on top of that.
Yep. There's one that is like interesting that like I do like, I like when I like with things that I'm like confident about, I do like being able to take care of, like I do like being able to like do those things and be appreciated for them. But I also like sometimes that gets very draining if I feel like I've got to take everything on, especially I've got to plan everything. I've got to be responsible for everything. So I do like want to be with somebody who like has the attitude that it's like a partnership.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if we need to figure out a problem together, or like I need advice, or I just want to like bounce ideas off each other. You know what I mean? I don't want to date like a literal infant who just is like, you know,
do
take
everything
care
for
of
me. I love you. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like that's also the early relationship versus late relationship thing, where it's like there might be things that early in the relationship, the excitement factor makes you just do those things without so much in return. Like it can override what you're actually getting back from it, because you're just so excited about the situation. But then later in the relationship, when it's more like, okay, yeah, I got this locked in, then like acts of service or whatever becomes like less enticing unless the dynamic's actually healthy.
Yeah. Gifts are really nice, but they're not like but like the value is meaningless. If it's like she got me a coffee, I'm like, oh, awesome. She was thinking about me, you know? It's not like, it's like she, like, if it's expensive, like that's just not important. That's not the important part of that. You know?
Some people, that's like their thing, you know, like, and I feel like, if you know, like if I feel like gift giving is one where it's like, if that's your thing, that's your thing.
That's your thing.
It's almost easy. It's a capitalist sort of.
The annoying thing about gift giving is I actually put like a very high bar on, there's actually a very high bar on like gifts that I'm interested in receiving.
Oh yeah, you're so hard to get gifts for.
Like, cause
you just get everything you want for yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of things that I don't have, it's because I don't want them. Like a lot of the time I get gifts and I'm like, I literally just throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, the card is the nice part of it and the gift is just some bullshit that I'm going to put on my shelf.
Yeah.
And then also giving gifts. I try to give gifts. When I give gifts, I try to put a lot of effort into them.
Yeah.
And like think about what I'm going to give people. Like, for example, I like to give people food, like chocolates or like a tasty condiment or something, because that's something that people will actually use, you know?
Yeah.
And when you have to put effort into it, it's a lot of like thought, you know, it's not like, here's like a fucking Arby's gift card, you know, like it's, you know, it's hard, you know.
We've gone off the rails with this one. We still have 2 more long-term relationship questions.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so back to the question.
Well, it is actually, I think it is kind of helpful to discuss because I do feel like part of it, the love languages thing, whatever, is kind of a non sequitur, but I think it's kind of useful where it's like, the initial spark gets you over a lot of maybe things that might be problems later down the line in terms of imbalances.
Yep.
So maybe just thinking about like, what is it that you actually want? And also like, are you still providing the things that you used to provide?
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. Make sure that you haven't, started slacking.
Yeah, because probably you have.
Yep.
Like both parties probably have.
Yep.
We got plenty to go through. Okay, we should keep going through the long-term relationship.
All right, next one.
Oh, I'm trying to call the Hell Money podcast. My headphones are being weird, so I apologize if you've got like 4 blank voicemails.
We did.
I also just don't want to dox my phone number,
So you did it 4 times.
No, it was anonymous. It did do the star 6-7.
Coming in private and all creepy like. But the question I wanted to ask was, how do you incorporate a sex life in a relationship, a long-term relationship, with a busy schedule? I feel like my husband and I have great sex when we have it, but I find myself, it's like that, oh, I'm so horny, let's do something, and you're like passing out, or, oh, I've got to go to the grocery store, or, oh, I've got to go do this, and I've got this project and that project. I don't want the answer, just schedule it. I want something more nuanced. And I don't want to put it on the calendar. So there's that, I've tried that. I don't think it's sexy. One thing that has worked is like in advance, my husband and I will say, we're going to have a date night, on Friday or Saturday or Monday, whatever night it is. And that's worked well, but I'd love to hear your advice. And, he also won't do it in outside places. So there's that. I would love that, but he won't. So there's that caveat. Okay. Love to hear your thoughts.
I love that addendum.
Yeah.
That like this long question and he won't fuck me in the gas station bathroom. That's
I would love that, but
I love that, but
I love this question because I feel like I'm getting a picture of their relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like I can more specifically give advice because she's really painted a picture.
Yeah. So one thing I'll say, just a thought that I had is, well, it sounds like you did kind of have a nice little answer there, which is that you're like, well, I don't like putting it on the calendar, but sometimes we'll like schedule a date night, wink, wink.
Yeah.
That
is putting it on the calendar.
Yeah, but
she wants something else. She's saying I'm already kind of doing that.
Well,
right?
I don't know, but I mean, try to schedule things with your husband that are just fun activities that you want to do that may end with you busting it open.
Right.
Or with him busting it open. Does the woman bust it open or does the man bust it open?
Obviously the woman busts it open.
Right. It's current.
It's opening.
It's current year, you know? Yeah, because like usually that's in the context of like, oh, I saw her busted open on the timeline.
Yeah.
You know?
You can do whatever you want though. It's
Yeah,
2025.
Yeah. I don't
Anyone
know.
can bust it open.
Anyone can bust it open.
I think actually the answer to this is something you said earlier, which is like, it sounds like part of the problem is like an energy level thing where it's like you both enjoy doing this. Maybe you're busy, but you're like, it's like you have a situation where you're like, oh, maybe I'd like to do this, but I'm kind of tired.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like maybe it's like fix your energy level and metabolism. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if you have more energy, then like those situations, it's not going to be like, fuck, I'd rather sleep. You know, it's like, well, I'd rather do this
How do you
thing.
fix your energy level and metabolism?
I just think it's like more of a healthy living thing. It's like, make sure that you're like prioritizing like, yeah, just like getting in good shape, making sure you're getting enough sleep, like whatever. And then you will have more energy for when those times come, which it seems like for her, it's not such a problem.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it's more just like, oh, like we're here, but it's like, oh, okay, I got to do a whole thing to like make this happen. I'd rather just go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know?
You could also, great advice. You could also maybe, tempt your husband a little bit with the outside, with the sex and other places.
Yes.
With being like, listen, like we go to like this, like I will just suck you off in a bathroom.
Okay.
Get him. No. Be like, listen, you don't need to do anything. You know what I mean? I will just,
This is why I was worried about this.
And
episode.
then maybe he'll, get into it. You know what I mean? Maybe he'll see the light.
Right.
You know?
I was going to say, since he's not interested in doing it in public, then like you should tempt him in public so that when you're in private later,
fuck with him.
It's like you've built up this whole thing where it's like you can't ignore it and go to sleep.
And it's like, listen, buddy, you can fuck me in the gas station bathroom right now, but you won't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I like that. I think that's really good. I feel like that's fun. It's sexy.
Yep.
Yeah, so that, and then just like getting your energy levels figured out.
Energy levels up, and then also I do think that if it works to schedule other things that...
Yeah, schedule other... I mean, it sounds like you're already kind of doing that, but yeah. It seems like you're in a good situation, though.
Yeah, I like...
Happy for you, Queen.
I like this Queen. I think she's got a good head on her shoulders. Yeah.
I have a serious problem in my relationship. I have a confession to make. How do I say this? I'm an Emacs user, and the love of my life is a Vim user. Okay, but seriously, we say that Bitcoin has value because it's scarce, love valuable because it's scarce, like Bitcoin, or because it feels infinite or is infinite, whatever. And then on a more practical question, how do you keep romance and creativity alive as your time and energy get kind of sucked up by life? Have fun.
There's kind of 3 questions in there.
Yeah.
But I think only the last one is real.
Yeah. I mean, the love of your life is an Emacs user. I mean, I guess just don't share your dot files,
Sucks to suck.
Yeah, sucks to suck.
Bitcoin like love is infinite but scarce.
That's right. Yeah.
It's kind of true.
No, I mean, this is like a very like, does love bloom on the battlefield? Like Hideo Kojima kind of question, I think the answer is yes.
Love is scarce? Wait,
no,
I don't know what's the reference.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand the reference.
I'm just saying the question is like Hideo Kojima is this like video game auteur who makes this series called Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
And it's a lot of this like fuzzy, like, philosophizing.
Battle brings death. Death brings sorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Neon Genesis, whatever.
Yeah. And then third question.
Love is infinite and scarce. That's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah. Last question. This is the final kind of like long-term relationship. How do you keep things alive? This one was specifically creativity and romance. I don't know. Do you have an answer for this? Because we've already talked a lot about, obviously this is our last long-term relationship question. We've already talked about this a bit.
I think this question is maybe the hardest because he didn't give us that much to work with.
Yeah.
So like with the other ones, we sort of had more specific answers. But this one, I think like, it's like, man, yeah, I think figuring out things that you like to do with each other is the real goated answer, right? Like imagine you have a best friend that you live with and you're close enough to sleep in the same bed and all the time you're doing things together that's fun for both of you. That's pretty great.
Yeah, but it's hard because I think the thing that is difficult about a long-term relationship is that you have to do all the things you don't like to do together. Like it's like keeping up a life and a household is like a lot of bullshit, chores and work.
Yeah.
And like if that ends up being what your relationship is, then that's like what you associate with that person.
Yeah.
So I think it's like doing things that you like to do together.
Yeah.
And kind of like making your associations with that relationship more positive.
It is an interesting thing about like maybe relationships would last longer if people didn't live together.
Yeah.
Like if people, maybe the ideal scenario is sort of like an adjoined bungalow, you know, where you both have your own bungalow and you can go to the other person's place. Like, cause like, you know, do you really need to see each other like 12 hours a day? Like for me personally, the answer is like fucking no. Like I want to see somebody like 3 times a week for like 6 hours, maybe, you know, like maybe maybe like an overnight, you know, but like 24/7, like, holy shit, that sounds just unnecessary.
See, I'm the opposite. This is where I feel like my love language is kind of weird, where it's like, I'm not a quality time person. I'm like I love like being around my person. You know what I mean? Like I love like just being like this is my family. This is like my comfort. Like I do think it does become a problem if like things are stressful at home or there's just like a lot to do that's not getting done, then like that's where it becomes an issue. And also you need quality alone time, like genuinely alone time.
Yep.
So that can be hard to navigate. But like I kind of like that there's just like always this person who I do everything with. And like that's fun and comforting for like I wouldn't want to be alone.
Yep.
You know? So I don't know. I think I feel like the answer for creativity and romance is kind of what we've already talked about with like just doing things together. But also I do feel like, I mean, I feel like I'm coming across so pessimistic, but it's like, you know, when you start to get to the phase of like family level with someone where like you are having kids or like you've been together for a long time and like, this person is more like family than they are like just a person in your life. And that does change dynamics, you know? And I feel like part of it is just, is that something that you want out of life in general or not? Like, I think like for me, it's like the reason why I like my long-term relationship and why it works for me is because I like that dynamic also, you know? But for some people who maybe actually their ideal would be like, they're mostly alone except for when they want to see people. I just feel like, it would be really hard to have a long-term domestic partnership, you know, but that doesn't mean you can't find love that way, you know, but it's, or maybe you can't find love that way. Okay. Next one.
Yep.
Hi, long-time listener, first-time caller. I have a question. If quantum entanglement allows multiple particles to share an instantaneous connection, regardless of distance, does that mean that like maybe like a well-structured polyamorous relationship could theoretically achieve a state of synchronicity? Really need help with this burning question. Love you guys. Bye.
We love you too.
We love you too. This again is very much a Hideo Kojima question.
It is,
Yeah, like Snake. If quantum particles can be entangled, maybe poly relationships can work.
I feel like we put this one after the long-term relationship thing because I feel like this is like a lot of people's answer to the long-term relationship problem. Yeah. Is like, I mean, first of all, there's a difference between being in an open relationship and being in a poly relationship. Yeah,
I don't understand poly personally because I'm like, oh great, now I have like 2 relationships that are like hard.
That have their issues.
Yeah, but I do get like an open relationship where it's like, oh yeah, you can just go bang somebody.
Yeah, and it's
not a big deal. Yeah. But like, I don't want 2 girlfriends, right?
Who does?
Who does? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen poly work for some people. I think the thing that is difficult with it, well, some people, this is what they like about it, is like it takes over your whole life in the same way that like a crush takes over your whole life. And like, I feel like the thing that, I mean, first of all, I'm just like very monogamous, like I would rather die than like be in a poly or open relationship. But like, you know, I think the thing that some people like poly people like about it is that like, your life becomes very dominated by that feeling. Yeah. You know, and you can always chase that feeling. You can always court more people.
Being in relationships like as a hobby.
Yes.
Then like, and you want to do your hobby more? Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, I know poly people that are like happy in their situation. They're not like the people that I know that are most satisfied with it are like people that are not planning on having kids or living a traditional life in any sort of way. And I feel like for them, that totally makes sense then, because it's like, I mean, you got to keep life interesting. Like, what else are you living for? You know, not to say you can't be poly and also have kids or whatever, but it takes over so much of your brain space to like be constantly chasing and pursuing, you know?
Interesting data point from whore lord Ayala.
Right.
Which is, she found that people who are like full on poly lifestyle, poly friends, think about poly, talk about poly a lot, were way happier than people who were like kind of 1 foot in the door poly.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. And so I think it's like, one is like, I don't think you can do it to save a relationship. I think it's the way that you like pull the plug on a relationship.
Yeah, when you're too scared to actually pull the plug.
Yeah.
I've seen that way more than successful poly relationships.
Yeah. But I also think, that like maybe you should be really into being poly instead of being like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, you kind of have to commit to the bit.
Yeah, commit to the bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like if you commit to the bit, I mean, for me, it's like the thing that I find very, like, I personally don't, I mean, having a crush is a great feeling. It is also very destructive to other aspects of your life.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the point of having a crush is so that you make negative trade-offs in other parts of your life, neglecting other things, neglecting friendships. Yeah. To get it in or get it in gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think for me, like something that's been really nice about just being in a relationship my entire adult life is like, I don't think I would be as far along in the other aspects of my life if I hadn't done that. Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of locked it down early and I was like, okay, I got this.
I mean, like you're a complete fucking success story, right? Because you're like, you have your like long-term relationship. You never come over and you're like, oh my God, like things are so bad, like in my relationship, or I got cheated on, or I went on some fucking date and I think I have an STD and I feel like a slut. Like all this fucking bullshit. And so you're like very productive in other aspects of your life because you have all this like time and energy to dedicate to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think like that's the thing. And I definitely noticed this as like a disconnect with, like other women, especially when I was a little bit younger, like in college or like right after college, is like, I just didn't relate to like, okay, we go to brunch and I'm like, let's solve Israel-Palestine, you know? And they're like, I just had the most like darked out hookup of my life last night and I need to unpack it.
I feel so,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's like, it really does like, dating is very fraught. Yeah. Obviously, like when you just have crushes on people and it works out, it's like awesome. But a lot of having crushes on people is it not working out and being terrible. Yeah. And like, I really feel, I don't know. I feel like that's like the actual reality of dating as opposed to like, oh, we're just like free spirits that just like love is infinite, you know, and we just want to express our love. It's like, no, actually you're having like communication circles with your Kuhl where you're all figuring out the nuances.
Getting fucking cooked, right, by your secondary.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like
getting your ass roasted by a baby.
Because you have highs and lows when it comes to that type of romantic intensity, you know, like the high of like, oh my God, they texted me back. But then the low of like, they haven't texted me in a day. Like, am I never going to see them again? And like a lot of times the answer is yes, you know, and like, I feel like heartbreak is like kind of the worst feeling in the world, you know?
And then like there's then that's just probably like amplified with the polycule, you know?
Yeah, of
like,
course.
Holy shit, I'm getting my dick sucked by 2 women. And then holy shit, I'm getting my ass yelled at by 2 women.
Yeah, exactly.
The highs are higher,
you have
the
to
lows
accept the
are
highs
lower.
and the lows. And I also think, something that maybe this isn't actually as big of a problem for poly people because there's more of like fluid ins and outs of
there's a lot of
fluids and ins and outs. Yeah. But I just mean like the barrier between friendship and relationship is not so cut and dry where it's like you can be a friend and then you can be in a relationship and then maybe you can be a friend. But I think another thing that I'm really grateful that I didn't do the kind of whole dating thing is that like, the relationships that I put a lot of effort into over the last 10 years or whatever have been friendships that like don't have as much of a reason to be like, oh, I put all this time in and now I'll never talk to you again. Yeah. Obviously that does still happen with friendships, but I feel like that's kind of the rule with relationships where it's like you commit so much time and effort and you organize your life around this one person and then it doesn't work out. And then like,
It's nuked.
It's nuked, and that's lost time that you could have spent on other relationships.
I feel like we've kind of gone away from the original question.
But it's just it's a fun topic.
I would say, like, if you're interested, I would say give it a shot and give it like a real shot.
Go for it for real.
Read
the Ethical Slut books.
Read the Ethical Slut.
Yeah.
Figure out what you really want about it. Talk to your partners, and then if you don't like it, don't be worried about cutting and running and being like, all right, gave this the old college try.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Try it is the answer.
Try it. Why not?
Hi, I have a few questions. I was wondering, at what point when you're starting to talk to someone, do you bring up Bitcoin? And later down the road, what point do you share your seed phrase? Thanks.
I feel like you probably will have a better answer than me for this.
Yeah, so I actually have a really concrete answer that like takes care of both of these things. For optimal security, you should have your seed phrase tattooed around your butthole. And so when the relationship gets to the point that your partner sees your butthole, that both is the first time to explain what those 12 words are, or 24 words if you're just gaped open.
So you have to bust it open.
Yeah, and also what Bitcoin is. So that's really the natural progression. Yeah.
And I assume you have that arrangement figured out for yourself.
I can neither confirm nor deny. It's only 12 words of seed XOR of a seed XOR seed phrase. So you can't get it,
Right.
Yeah.
What's your actual answer?
I mean, I talk about Bitcoin all the time to everybody.
Yeah, I'm
so
like,
the
I can't
answer is
not,
like immediately, like on your Tinder profile, like
you don't have it in your like dating app profile, do you?
No. But no, I mean,
but when does it come up? Like when?
Always like first date, because they're like, "What do you do?" And
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's your job.
do you know about
Yeah.
Bitcoin? And then when do you share your seed phrase? Fucking never. You take that shit to your fucking grave.
Yeah.
I mean, or if you're like really in a relationship and you have kids and all that, okay, then
Yeah, because you kind of have to.
sit
It's
down and
like what
figure it
happens if
out.
you get hit by a truck?
That's right.
Yep. Like, I mean, there are like more custody solutions coming out for that kind of stuff. I think we're still so early when it comes.
Yeah.
A lot of Bitcoiners don't have this problem.
Yep.
So they don't have anyone to share their seed phrase with in the first place.
Yep.
So, but I think this is becoming more of a thing where it's like, I think we need a technical solution. Much like marriage is like a legal technical solution to relationships. It's like, because you don't want to just give someone your seed phrase.
Yep.
Because like things could always go bad.
Yep.
You never know.
Yep.
And so like, I feel like, you kind of don't want to share your seed phrase as like an act of devotion and love to someone.
No.
Right?
No,
like
no,
I
no,
kind of
no,
feel
no.
like the answer is like sort of never.
Yeah, sort of never. Or like when you sit down and you have a serious custody, like legacy inheritance kind of conversation,
Yeah.
if you decide to merge your finances.
Yeah, we have a question that's about finances later, so maybe we can talk about that kind of specific thing later. But when do you bring up Bitcoin? It depends on how important it is in your life.
Yeah.
If it's that
Just let
important,
it come up naturally. When you want to talk about it, you'll talk about it.
but you're going to want to talk about it.
Yep.
And if someone's like not into it, I actually do think it's kind of a nice like filter too, where it's like someone can be not into it, but just be generally curious, and like you don't have to get them into it, but like at least they can kind of understand that it's important to you. So, but if they're just like, oh, that's evil, I'm not interested, then it's like, yeah, you probably don't want to date that person.
Yep.
So I think Bitcoin comes up in the conversation early if it's important to your life, and seed phrase comes up ideally never.
Yep.
Okay.
Next one.
Yes, many podcasts. I was calling because I wanted to ask if you're having gay tendencies and, it's getting very tempting, doing some gay shit. Should one, and this means like, let's say like that person is happily married, to the partner. Should you, try it, just to get it out of the way. B, maybe just make love to your wife, as soon as possible when you're getting these tendencies, gay tendencies in your head, to see maybe if it blows over. C, try sucking on cocks. D, none of the above, and get psychiatric help. Get a shrink. What do you guys recommend? And again, this is actually, I'm just passing the message forward from a friend who asked this question.
Thank you, gaytendencies.mp3. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think psychiatric help is just kind of out. Like, I don't think that that's like, I mean, listen, like if you're gay, bro.
Bro, you
like,
gay,
just
it's
suck
fine.
some dicks.
Yeah.
Like,
I actually think that's like more acceptable than just like the cheating on like your wife with a woman.
Right.
Because it's like, oh.
If these two callers have anything.
They have anything to do, they're friends of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, yeah, I'm trying to put myself in the wife's position now.
Yeah.
I would be much more darked out by the gay cheating, but it would be maybe more understandable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd be like, bro, like, I can't believe you didn't figure this shit out before.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a little bit more like relationship ending.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really fix that.
Yeah.
If that's just what that person wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to act on all desires though.
True.
Like, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, if you are bisexual, you know, like, you don't have to act on being gay.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Yeah. If you're happily, you know, fucking your wife. Yeah. I think that's a good point. It's like, you know, I like, Takis, but Takis have a lot of calories and I don't feel the need to pound a bag of Takis every time I walk by one.
Yeah.
And if I had, gaytendencies.mp3, I wouldn't necessarily, you know, be shoveling cocks in my mouth,
right,
at every opportunity.
Yeah, it's grass is always greener, right? Like, it's like, I think if you chase every desire that you have, like, and you're just like, it's the most important thing to me that I achieve every desire that I have.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna reach like a weird place.
But I think, I mean, I wonder is the question here, like, yo, what if I'm actually gay and I'm like not straight and I'm not bi? I'm like a cock smoker. A chocolate thief, a booty bandit.
Maybe like wait till you're like, okay, if you have kids, right? This is like something that I think you can wait till all the kids are out of the house kind of thing, you know? Like Caitlyn Jenner had 6 children, won an Olympic gold medal, and then like transitioned when she was like 67 or something, 70 maybe.
Yeah.
And now she's a beautiful MAGA woman.
Yep.
I feel like I kind of look like Caitlyn Jenner right now, like with this dress.
You look a little better than Caitlyn Jenner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
To put it mildly.
But yeah, I mean, life is long, right? And I think like you don't have to act on all of your desires the instant that you have them.
Yeah.
So I feel like if this is actually something that's taking up more and more brain space,
Yeah.
I mean, this is where actually maybe the psychiatric help is like an aspect where it's not like medicate yourself,
not like pray the gay away,
but understand yourself. Like,
yeah,
is this
like if you
actually
have temptations
something?
and if it's not important for you to do it, help not doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, personally, if I was gay, I would break up with my wife and I'd be smoking cocks all day long.
Right.
Like I'd be gobbling knobs. Okay. I'd be a knob goblin.
You'd be a knob gobbler.
Yeah. So if that's what's going on, then I think that's my advice. I think gay guys seem like they have it great.
Yeah. Honestly,
you know?
that's the thing. It's like, if that is just your truth,
yeah,
then there's many, many opportunities for you to find what you're looking for.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, listen, men and women, because we're different, we drive each other crazy. We drive each other fucking crazy.
It's true.
You know? So, yeah.
I think, yeah. So I think like maybe not psychiatric help, like in that literal way, but just figuring out and not feeling like the time pressure.
What if you don't
the
know?
time is not running out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there is some aspect of like, well, you only live once. You have to like,
what if
you know, live your life.
What if you're like, maybe I'm gay, but you're like, I don't know until I've like tried it.
I feel like if you're thinking that, then you want it. And you're just like, you're just trying to like reconcile it. Like, I don't know. It's like, okay. But
yeah, right.
you know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you probably do. But again, all desires don't have to be acted on.
True.
Like life is long, you know, like you can like recognize this in yourself and be like, okay, I'm going to try to like really think like, is this actually something that's so important to me that I'd like to derail other aspects of my life for it?
Right. Yeah. Trade-offs.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Hello, Hell Money Pod. I have a question. So this is, you said this is about love and relationships. But I'm assuming that a lot of the people who are asking questions are going to be asking about romantic love, romantic relationships. But I wanted to ask about a different type of relationship. And I just wanted to get your opinions on this. And that's the relationship between a parent and their child, right? So the parent-child relationship, I think that's one of the more just important relationships that a human can experience. And I'd like to get your opinions on whether you view that as an important thing for both yourselves and just for people in general. And I'm going to ask you not to respond in the context of I don't want to have children, it's too expensive, or the world is crappy, because there have been many generations before yours where things were a lot worse and they still had kids. So I would like to get I'd just like to get your comments on whether you think having a child is an important thing for the human experience. Thank you.
That's my mom. My mom called in. I asked if I could dox her. This is literally my mom asking, "Do you love me?" Like, that's literally what she's asking.
Oh no, I got like
when are you having kids?
Yeah, I got when are you having kids energy. Yeah. I'll answer. I think that having children is 100% one of the core parts of the human experience.
Totally.
Regardless of what we think about should I have kids, should I not have kids, there are reasons to have kids, there are not reasons to have kids. There is so much hardwired behavioral programming that centers around courtship, mating, children, family, raising kids' behaviors, so much of that. And I think that is what those things are essential to the human experience. Those things that are hardwired in us for evolutionary reasons. I think there's kind of two parts of the human experience. I think there's those hard-coded things that also include things like eating, exercise, running, like those things, using your body, the unique things about a human. I think the other thing that makes humans fascinating is this part of us that is not hardwired, which is our like intellectual capabilities. And so I think using and exploring those intellectual capabilities are also like a complementary part of the human experience. Thinking, being creative, writing, speaking. I mean, language is a huge part of the human experience, but that is kind of hardwired. But yeah, this like, so I do think everything that's core and hardwired is part of the human experience. And I think because our unique flexibility in intellect, all those things, intellectual pursuits are also part of the human experience. And that having a kid 100% falls into this first category. And regardless of whether you want a kid or not, it's part of the human experience. And don't give me cope because you don't want to have kids and you're going to say that it's not core to the human experience.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The other part of the question is, do you think the relationship between parent and child is important? She asked that also.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the parent-child relationship is like most of the reason why I want kids. I mean, I love my parents, like, love you, Mom. You are important to me. And I will have kids, God willing. But yeah, I think it's like so cool to just like you're creating like a new family member that like you get to have influence on the way that they grow up, And obviously you can't control everything. Like they're going to be their own person. That's also what's kind of fun and interesting about it. But like, yeah, I mean, like I have a great relationship with my parents. I love my parents. And so I feel like that's something like if I didn't have that, I don't know how I would feel about having kids because I'm not like super like, oh my God, baby, like I want to have little kids. Like that's not like super appealing to me. Kids are cute. It's not like totally whatever. But I feel like for me, the thing that's more interesting is just like that I see how my parents shaped me. And like, I have the opportunity to do that. And it's like a way to live on. And it is an intrinsic, also there's this intrinsic biological aspect and maybe those things are tied together, but it's just like, that's your lineage, like that is your legacy and your dynasty, So I feel like it's very important. Yeah. Anything else to say on parent-child relationships?
No, totally agree. And I think I sort of have the same perspective. Like, obviously I have to, find a wife first, or whatever. I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, if I was with the right woman, I'd be like, yeah, let's fucking go. And what you said that's interesting to you or appealing to you about having kids. It's interesting. I think that that's kind of like a more like male brained thing. And I think I feel the same way. Like, yeah, I would think my kid is cute. Yeah. Like, listen, I'll change diapers. I'm not excited about it, but I'll do it. But I think like, it's like the thing that's really exciting to me is like the kid coming into their own as like an intellectual entity.
Yeah.
And being able to teach them things. Fuck, I love bloviating. Like, I'll teach the hell out of whatever. Like, teach that little guy or girl to program or whatever. That sounds super fucking fun. Teach them how to use a computer. Teach them how to get jacked, lift weights.
Right.
All that shit.
Make
just
a child in your
awesome.
image, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm very excited for it. And also tying back to the long-term relationship questions, it's like, this is the point of a long-term relationship.
Yep.
There can be other points to a long-term relationship, but like quintessentially, this is the point.
We have to be real about, and like, it's really important to say there's not a value judgment here. Like the purpose of a human is an organism that evolved. And if we're going to use the word purpose at all, the purpose is to like pass on your genes and like compete and be like the fittest organism you can be, which means reproductive fitness. Like that's just the only way that purpose has any meaning.
Well,
when it's
and
applied
to
humans.
find a partner that you believe is also competitive reproductively, right?
Yep.
And I feel like that's a huge part of like, I think something that's like been good in my long-term relationship is like, I feel like my boyfriend is going to make like a great father,
Sure.
and I'm like excited to see him do that. And I like want to give him that, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a thing where it's like, that is like a biological attraction level,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, it's important. God, my mom's going to like watch this and listen to me talk about all this shit. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
Hey, How Money. This is Aya from California, and I have a question about what you, Casey, and Erin each think about what an ideal financial split or contribution system would be for a couple that is committed and wanting to be together forever. What would you do?
I have so many thoughts on this topic, but it's very individual. So it's hard. Like, I want to go like Dave Ramsey on this. You know what I mean? Where it's like, do you know Dave Ramsey, where like you call in and you're like, I'm $50,000 in debt. And he's like, okay, what are you spending on this? What are you spending? And then he like talks some real, I feel like with a lot of this stuff, finances, obviously this is a Bitcoin sort of finance podcast in a way. Like finances, I think, are something that a lot of people don't think about. They don't like to think about like where their money comes or goes or like plan in that kind of way. And it's really hard to in our current economic situation where it's just like inflation craziness. But I do feel like that's where a lot of expectations are set in a relationship that aren't spoken, and so I feel like it is very individual, and it's something, I don't know, like my advice for like the question is like financial split. I feel like I'm kind of going to be like, second wave feminism about this, where I'm like, I don't think it's the man's responsibility to pay for a woman when women have equal opportunity to employment. That doesn't mean that that's not a viable and healthy and good setup. But I feel like there's a bit of like a weird mismatch between men and women that's happening right now, where like on some level, there's this kind of like men like to be providers, right? Like that's a very satisfying thing for a man to do, but the economic reality doesn't necessarily like support that model anymore. So I kind of think like maybe a rule of thumb is like, I don't know, I was talking about this question with my boyfriend because like we were like discussing and debating it, but like it's kind of maybe like a proportional income split, where like if one of you makes way more money than the other, it's like a shared pool that you then both spend out of. But there's so many caveats to that. Cause like, okay, I like when I was talking with my boyfriend about this, like, what if you are with someone who has like $70,000 of student loan debt? Like, is that now a shared debt that you have to pay off together?
Right.
It kind of is if you marry them. Right. And like, I don't know. I feel like these are like difficult topics around love and relationships where it's like, if it's all good, you never have to talk about it. You know, it's never a problem. But if it's bad, which of course in our economic reality 2025, for a lot of people it is bad, then it's kind of one of the most important things in a long-term relationship. I don't know. What's your like perspective on this?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing that you said is really interesting and totally right. Like, I think the idea that the man needs to provide like really substantial resources is based on a reality that's just not there anymore. Like men and women basically make the same amount of money. And with women, when you control for them taking time off to have kids, they do make the same amount of money. Like this is, we don't live in a world where women don't have, you know, economic opportunities and the woman is just going to kind of, you know, maybe go to school, maybe not, and then work as a secretary until they get wifed up. You know, that's not the world we're in. And so I think you got to figure out in a relationship how to let the man do his cute little providery things, you know, but not that he's spending tens of thousands of dollars, that he's like covering all of the rent. That's a very different thing. That's not a cute little providery thing. That's like, look, you guys are both adults. You both have income. I think a proportional split is like pretty reasonable. I think a lot of it has to do with like your individual circumstances.
Yeah.
Obviously there's things you don't know. I think a much more interesting question, or not a much more interesting question, but a simultaneously interesting question is like, how do you deal with how entangled things get?
Yeah.
Like, do you just both dump both your paycheck into a shared account? Like you just have one bank account, right? Or do you keep your bank account separate and then you have a shared bank account that you deposit, you know, X amount of money into every month and then you pay shared expenses out of that account?
So I feel like that the nuances of that come with shared property, right? Where if you're just in a relationship, like you don't own a house and you don't have kids, there's kind of no reason to share your finances unless you have to. You know what I mean? Like what's the reason to do that? But if you have both of your names on a mortgage where you're both paying the mortgage, then it's like, it kind of does make sense to pool your income together and like pay it out of that rather than be like, okay, you send half the check, I send half the check, or like you pay this month. Why would you do that? It's just complicated, right?
It's like, do you have your own bank accounts where you can make it really simple. You can have you can each have your own individual bank accounts and a shared bank account. And then you make a deposit every month into that shared bank account proportional based on your income. That's just one thing you each have to do every month.
Yeah.
And then you pay out of that your expenses. And then
that's pretty good.
It's coming out of that proportion.
That's not bad. Yeah, actually that's a pretty decent setup. I think this is like not.
There's one thing I will say. I do like the idea of like, listen, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and like they buy like frivolous bullshit, as long as it's not a problem for our like collective finances, I do kind of like thinking like, yeah, that's her money, like whatever.
Well, if it's her money, right?
Yeah. If it's coming out of her private account, that is nice. I like the idea of being like, yo, my wife is an adult. She has her own interests.
100%.
She makes her own money, and separate from the money that we dedicate for our like shared finances.
Life together,
yeah, she can do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the same thing. She's going to look in my bank account and she's going to be like $19,000 for a server, for a fucking computer. Like, bro, you already have a lot of computers. And I'll be like, no, this one's really good. Like, I would like to be afforded the same, flexibility.
Grace. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, that's where I'm saying where like, if money is not a problem, then it's absolutely not a problem. It's like, this only becomes a problem when there's a problem. And like, I feel like, I don't know. I like really feel for people that like, maybe there's so many good things that are like in your relationship where like everything works, you have all these things, but then like one person is like horrendously in debt because of a decision they made when they were 17 years old. And now you have to take on that burden that does burden your relationship. I feel like money, it's like, it can be like a huge issue in a relationship. I think
I'd be so annoyed if I married a woman and she had like $120,000 in debt for the most like libtard degree.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, but think about the average college student leaves college with like $25K in debt. And it's probably higher. That was like when I graduated college.
Oh, $25K is nothing. That's it?
The average student? That's a lot.
But I mean, like, you can pay that off pretty quickly.
But the average student is like, that's community college, state school, private. Like, that's a lot to leave like just any college with.
Doesn't seem that bad to me.
You're like, whatever, I'll pay that off.
No, I don't know. I mean, like,
I wonder what it is now, because I graduated in like 2018.
I feel like if you have a bunch of debt and I feel like paying off $10K a year is like not impossible.
I mean,
it's not going to be nice, but like you can do it.
Yeah.
Maybe the problem is that people get $25K in debt and they never pay it off.
Yeah,
and they make minimum payments.
And
for the
you're
rest
just
of their
indentured
life.
slave forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think like this is a like maybe like out there solution, but I think one person in a relationship needs to become autistically focused on personal finance.
Interesting.
You know, because I feel like the reality is that if you just shut your brain off when it comes to finances, the world is designed to make you an indentured slave.
Yep.
That is like the debt economy that we live in.
Yep.
You know, like they want you to take on the debt for college. They want you to buy a house that you can't afford because they just give you the mortgage to do it. Like they really want you to be enslaved and to build no generational wealth. This is the orange pill maxi part of the podcast, but it's true, right? Like if you're just on autopilot when it comes to finances, you can get caught in so many things that just make it so that you're never financially independent, never financially free. I think one person has to care.
I actually think it also makes a lot of sense that like your own sort of pool of money that you do whatever and maybe you don't think so hard about it. I mean, don't get in crazy credit card debt or whatever. But then the shared pool, like pay attention to what goes into it and what comes out of it and what you're deciding is a shared expense and think about it like carefully.
Yeah, I feel like one thing that was great, like I went down the personal finance rabbit hole first when I was like 17 and then again when I was like 21 or 22, where I just kind of was like, okay, I'm going to learn about this and I'm just going to kind of like set my things up, right? I like read I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. It's not like good advice from like a Bitcoin perspective at this point, but it's like great, like very normie, like pay off debt at this amount. Like your interest rate is this. So that means that you should pay off this way. And then like you should invest with this money because the rate of return is higher on here. Like it's literally that kind of like normie finance stuff. I always like give that to my friends that are like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, can you help me? I'm like, just like go through this book, like whatever. So that's like, I mean, fucking basic bitch normie advice. But I feel like because I went down those rabbit holes early in life, I wasn't making, I mean, I was a PhD student, right? Like I wasn't making a lot of money. Neither was like my boyfriend for a while, but we weren't in a bad situation because neither of us left college with debt or like neither of us had like some sort of like burden. And I like autistically set shit up so that it was like set it and forget it. Like this is how much you should be putting in your 401k every month. This is where I should put this. This is like whatever. That eventually led me to Bitcoin, which was like the actual end goal, like buy Bitcoin. That's the solution to all of this. But like, I think if like one person has more of a fixation on that kind of like autistically going down the rabbit hole and setting up systems, it does set you off better for like 10 years down the line where maybe it's not such a big deal if something comes up, you know? So one of you has to do that. And that person should probably be in charge of like the shared account. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I have another question. I don't know if this is on the table, but my question is about Erin and Casey's relationship. I would love to know more about that. I don't know if you all have touched on it, but I think it would be apropos to start the episode with that or end the episode with that so that, you know, in the spirit of love and relationships, we could know a little bit more about that if you feel up for it. That's all.
We're ending the episode with that kind of. We have one more after this, but we put this at the end rather than the beginning.
Yeah, everybody always speculates about this.
I wonder what she thinks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, she probably thinks we're fucking. Like everybody thinks we're fucking. We are definitely not fucking.
No.
I mean, I think very early when we met, you like probably strategically mentioned that you had a boyfriend.
Yeah, I think the first time, because we started the podcast like relatively early into knowing each other. Like we had talked a couple times, but like it's not like we had like a long friendship and then started the podcast. Like our friendship kind of built because of the podcast.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, we
met at that meetup.
We went at the meetup, and
then I saw you speak at Bitcoin Miami. That was the next time I saw you.
Really, that was the second time you saw me.
Yeah,
and then we went out to like dinner or something
in Miami.
Yeah, in Miami, we got pizza.
Did I bring it up then? Because I brought it up in Miami.
You brought up the podcast then.
Yeah.
But you brought up having a boyfriend beforehand. You brought up the boyfriend before you saw me in Miami.
Okay,
at some point.
Okay, interesting. Because I was going to say, I feel like it was, because I remember when we got back from Miami, we were like, oh, let's like meet up and talk about this podcast idea. And I was like, oh, come to my house. And then like when you come to my house, it's obvious that I have a boyfriend.
Yeah,
like,
but you mentioned it long before. And I do not have a problem having platonic relationships.
Yeah, me neither.
with women.
I never have.
And I love having platonic relationships with women because it's like, you know, like there's a lot of the fun things about like friendships with men and women are different. And so you get different things from friendships with women than you get from friendships with men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like uncomplicated.
I know.
Like it's like great. It's really simple. Like there's no fucking drama.
This is like one of the healthiest relationships in my life.
Yeah, same TBH. So yeah, our relationship is really fucking boring.
It's very platonic.
Like it never comes up. It's completely platonic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm friends with Erin's boyfriend.
Yeah,
too.
my boyfriend's not jealous, which is awesome because he could be, right? Like
Totally.
I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I think some people
He's taller than me, you know,
right,
which
so
helps.
He's got it locked in. No, but I think some people like it would totally like they could not handle.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I don't get that. Like, I mean, but also like one other thing is that I don't have a propensity to cheat. I don't have a propensity to cheat. I just don't. I've never cheated. I just don't think I would. Like, and so I think maybe those two things are linked. Like how much you would cheat and how jealous you are. Like if you kind of know you would cheat, then maybe you get really jealous. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like Tyler and I were together for.
Is Tyler name doxed?
Oh, sorry. I don't know. Maybe bleep. No, I think we've mentioned him before.
Okay. Yeah. Tyler.
We were together for like 7 or 8 years before I met you. And like, we never had like any sort of issue or anything. So I feel like that kind of set it up where it was like there was no history of like that. Like we had already built a really solid foundation of like, this is not something that's going to happen in our relationship. So I feel like, I don't know. I mean, and I get like, I think we talked about this very early in the episode, but when you were talking about like, maybe relationships would be better if like people could have more like structure, like boundary distance. Like, I feel like, I mean, you and I have like a very like structured kind of like specific relationship in some ways. And I feel like that's also why it's very healthy.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Like if we were dating, we could not, I don't think we could, like it would have already blown up, to be honest. Like, I don't think it.
Having a podcast together, like, first
of all, no one wants to listen to that.
Yeah. And also like, I don't think I wouldn't want to have a podcast with somebody I've dated. I wouldn't want to do big projects that I was like, oh, now I have this relationship. And also now here's something that we have to do.
Yeah. Like our life is so, I mean, like we're very entangled in terms of like work, creative stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's nice that, I don't know. I feel like it's really nice to have like these separate buckets for like, at least for my life, where it's like, I don't do any like work stuff with my boyfriend.
Yep.
Like we just have our home life together and that's like our thing. And then like I have other people that I have other sort of entanglements with, like not romantically, but platonically.
Yep.
And I feel like it just makes things really like healthy, but it is like, it's interesting. Like, obviously I understand why people would think that. 'Cause it's like, why would a girl be into this? First of all,
I know why people think that. And that's because we have really good on-air chemistry.
Yeah.
We have really good on-air chemistry. Like, it's like, you know, it's just like
unbeatable. The How Many Podcasts.
Yeah. The rapport that we have, you know? But yeah, sadly for our viewers, that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. It's only movie magic.
Yeah, it's movie magic. Exactly. Yeah.
There's one more.
One more. Let's go.
Hey, I just wanted to call in to shoot my shot. Erin, will you be my Valentine this Valentine's Day? Let me know.
I'm all of your Valentines this Valentine's Day.
Okay, great.
Everyone's. I'm going to build out an Erin AI bot that you can interact with.
Perfect.
And Erin can be your Valentine.
There you go.
No, I'm already spoken for, unfortunately. But I do love Valentine's Day. And as I feel like we've shown in this episode, like there's many versions of love.
That's right.
Love is infinite and also scarce.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing.
Many versions of love, including unrequited love.
Sorry, bro.
Yep.
Should we do anything else?
No,
we good?
that's it.
This was fun.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I think we gave great advice.
Thanks
honestly.
for the content, guys. Thank you for calling in. We were panicked. We only got like 2 calls.
I think it's so funny. It's all girls that called in. I mean, not literally all girls, but like
a lot of girls.
YouTube told us that our analytics were 100% male, and yet our Loveline call-ins are like over 50% female, or at least that's what their voice sounds like.
Yep.
Pretty good.
So yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
and
we love you.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Hope you have a happy Valentine's Day. Bye.